Do you feel like you're living in hell with your spouse? Well, you're not alone because I did. The hell that we created together had a lot to do with financial trauma. His financial trauma and my financial trauma. I always say that financial trauma is something that we don't usually recognize or really even acknowledge because it's not something that anyone wants to talk about. People don't wanna talk about their finances, let alone any trauma that they are experiencing because of their mindset regarding money. Well, I am here to tell you, if you feel like you're living in hell with your partner, if you feel like you guys are always arguing, if you feel like you're always fighting, if you feel like you're misunderstood in regards to money, it's not about the money. It is about both of your mindsets when it comes to money. It is about the history that occurred that impacted your mindset around the money. It is usually because of the way that you grew up or whatever your normality is and the way that you were raised and your thoughts around money or your experiences somehow later in life that formed how you spend, how you save, how you see money, period. Whether you feel like you have to work harder for money, whether you feel like you are the highest creator and money is just attracted to you, but either way, the fights are not about the money. It is about the thoughts and processes behind them. And you and your partner are never going to be on the same page until you all really come together to look at that fact, until you come together and realize that, you know what? It's okay that we don't think alike when it comes to money. You're never going to be able to think alike when it comes to money. It's the same way in believing you came from two different backgrounds, you came from two different environments, you grew up with different people and that you are just expected to know when you decide to live together how each of you wants to live. No, you have to learn each other through experience, through communication, through love. The same way is the way that you discover and communicate better towards money. But what I realize is that a lot of us walk on eggshells. We don't want to talk about it. We feel shame regarding money. We feel icky. Like icky is the best term I can use because the fact of the matter is that we work tirelessly, a lot of us every day so that we can pay our bills, so that we can live, so that we can take care of ourselves and our children or the people that we love, but we don't want to talk about the impact that working hard, the impact that all of this has on us. And I say this because I've lived this experience, not just because I'm a financial therapist, but I lived this experience, crying, feeling like I was in agony and just feeling shame, feeling so many different feelings, not wanting to repeat the same things that happened to me when I was a child that I saw with what my parents did in my marriage. Just all of those things, but not communicating and talking to my ex husband about the things that happened to me as a child that impacted my mindset. And he didn't talk about his either, and that impacted his. The thing is, if we can start unpacking this information, our most just intimate thoughts when it comes to money with our partners, it will change the trajectory of the way that you communicate with one another about money. It doesn't matter whether you make six figures or you make two figures. It doesn't even matter because one doesn't have to do with the other. I know couples that make a lot of money and they're still not talking to each other about their finances. They're operating in their little bubbles individually as if they're not living a life where they collectively need to discuss who does what, how we spend, how we care for our children when it comes to money. Whatever the case is, we're just not talking about it. So, one of the biggest things that I see as a financial therapist with couples is the fact that nobody wants to take accountability for what's going on. Both parties usually think that they're doing the best that they can with what they have instead of looking at each other as a whole, right? Looking at the relationship as a whole and not just, oh, what I bring in or what you bring in, and this is mine and this is yours. It's never going to be 50-50. Newsflash. I don't care about all that 50-50 split and all that. It's bull. Because 50-50 means that we are on the same level. And most people, for the most part, are not making the same amount of money. So the 50-50 split is not true. If you want to say this person is taking 50% of what they have and this person is taking 50% of what they have, then you can say the 50-50 split is true. But even that equation doesn't work because 50% of someone that makes $100,000 and 50% of someone that makes $40,000 a year is going to be 250% at the end of the day. So let's be real. If you care and you love the other person and you care for their well-being and you decide to have children with this person and you decide to build a life with this person, then what is the issue when it comes to money? Why is there blame? Why is there shame? Why is there just a separate set of rules when it comes to finances, when we're splitting everything else, or we're sharing everything else, or we're seeing everything else in such a unique way? But when we want to talk about the money, it's like a let's just carry on like this is not the issue, because it is the issue. Because at the end of the day, 1 out of 4 couples end up in divorce because of their finances. That is a lot. 1 in every 4. That is insane. That one of the top reasons why they're not together is because of their finances. But it is not because of the money, once again, it's because of how we look at the money. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. Mine, for me, is unique because have you ever, grew up in a way and you said to yourself, you're not going to repeat the same thing that happened, or even remotely, like if your parents did something and you felt like, it was something that was dysfunctional, you can say, or it wasn't good and it was something you didn't want to carry, that you made a decision not to do the same thing. Well, I made a decision not to do the same thing. And guess what? I did close to the same thing as they did. And that was to get in um a financial bind, is what I say, right? And it happens. Things happen in life. My parents went through a bankruptcy in their marriage. I did too. My parents didn't talk about money the way that they should have. I did too. My mom managed all the finances and basically took over doing all of that, and I did too because I watched her do it and I thought that that was the way to do it. Now, I do definitely think that, a couple should decide who has maybe the main priority over, organizing the finances or paying bills, or maybe some person pays these bills, some person pays the other. But irregardless of who has more responsibility in that area, you should still be sharing the information of what's going on in your finances. One person should not have all the weight of understanding of what's going on, even if your other partner is the one that's making all of the money that comes into the home. You all both should be sitting down, having meetings about what is going on in your finances, because when one person has the sole responsibility of managing finances, they are definitely taking the weight and the burden of what exactly is going on. And usually, when that happens, if something goes wrong, or if the their expenses go up and they're not communicating that with their partner and things are unraveling and they feel this huge responsibility to get everything right and everything perfect. When it all comes tumbling down, the other partner is going to feel like they kept secrets from them and they're going to feel terrible. But that person in their mind is probably thinking that they made their partner feel safe because they were guarding them, or maybe that partner was making all the money. So it was like they didn't want them to have the extra stress of thinking that something was going on in their finances. And the fact of the matter is, it's not fair. It's not fair to either one of the people. Many of us have different styles, right? And thoughts and attachment styles when it comes to money. Some people have an anxious attachment style to money. Some of us, you know, we have more of a protective style when it comes to money, right? The anxious attachment style, a lot of times, is a person where every time they want to spend or do something, it really makes them anxious. It triggers something in their nervous system. And usually it's linked to something that has happened before where they feel dysregulated when it comes to money. Usually, the person that wants to protect, it's not so much about not wanting to spend, but they really want to see what's going on to the point it can kind of be debilitating to watch every single penny that's spent, because the reality is the money that we have is not really necessarily in our control when we're living day to day. Unexpected expenses come up. There are things that are beyond our control, and sometimes we really have to let go. The best practice is to be proactive instead of reactive if possible. But the majority of people in the United States are living paycheck to paycheck. And sometimes it is not easy being as proactive as we like to have savings or investments and things like that. And that is also another mindset. So you may have a partner that wants to invest or wants to save, and the other partner, it they don't know anything about it, and that may scare them to have investments or things where they don't know what could happen with the money. But, not understanding that maybe it's just sitting in a savings account, it's not really growing. So these are conversations that the two of you need to have, because I am telling you that if you don't have these conversations early on, you are going to feel like you're living in hell. And it is so easy, especially in a marriage when you're living together and you're sharing a household, it is so easy to pick and choose what we want to gloss over. Or you may have these flare ups of arguments or being upset concerning your finances, but then, of course, things die down. But it's just an up and down emotional seesaw that we are attaching to money, that we are dysregulating our nervous system each and every time. We don't know how to talk about it. We don't know how to approach our partner with it. We don't know the right time. Generally, what happens in relationships is when someone, especially when it comes to our finances, because we are so emotionally connected to it, the other person that is wanting to have the conversation is already hit the roof. They're already angry. They're already upset. They're already aggravated because of something the partner does. And generally, we want to discuss those things when we're in the heat of the moment. And that is definitely not the way to do it. We will not be able to listen to each other. We will not be able to hear each other. We're just going to blame each other. We're just going to do a whole lot of things that are not in love, that are not in respect, and where we're just not listening to the other person. So, one of the things that I tell couples to do that is really, really important is to write down things that have happened when they were younger in regards to money. Any type of impacts of, what we call financial trauma, things that really impacted their mindset. And it doesn't have to necessarily always be events. It could be things that they were told about money, things that made them feel um devalued, or where money was tied into their worthiness. And so it made them not feel worthy of enough or not feel worthy of just having a relationship with money. There's so many mindsets and things about money that aren't true. Like, things like people say money is the root of all evil, or rich people are evil, or they're doing something wrong because they have more money, or money doesn't grow on trees. All of those things, right, that we say because of our inadequacy and our mindset when it comes to money. And we just pass these things on from generation to generation to generation. And it's not fair to anyone. So it is time to break the cycle. It is time to stop living in hell with your partner when it comes to money. And nobody wants to talk about it. But I'm telling you, I know from my experience how horrible it feels. It is not a good feeling because at the end of the day, after all the fussing and the fighting and the shame and the disagreements, you're still at the same place because really nobody knows where to go. They don't know what step to take and they don't know how to change. And it unravels because there's so many layers to unpack. We have no idea where to start and we just keep hurting each other over and over and over again. So, if you are feeling this way with your partner, I have decided to have a master class and I am accepting 5 couples in a 6-part series masterclass where we meet in a group and we discuss exactly what's going on. Because one of the things that I definitely know in all of my counseling with countless couples is that even though individually everyone's story may be different, the experience that they're having is the same. We are experiencing a lot of the same emotions, a lot of the same histories, and just frankly, the same fights over and over and over again. And I always say when people understand that they're not alone in a situation, it changes their mindset and the way that they look at their situation because it can be very isolating to think you're the only couple experiencing what you're going through. And it is absolutely untrue. So, if you would like to be a part of this masterclass, I want you to send me a comment, and your comment can be us, and I will send you a link to sign up. I am just so excited, just deciding to commit to my YouTube because one of the things that I know it's been, it's been off and on for me for the last 2 years, but however this looks, I am really committed to really working with the collective and understanding how important what I do is and really helping others to navigate this part of their life because it can make you feel depression, anxiety, overwhelmed when you're dealing with financial trauma. And it's so much and so many things to unpack because again, nobody wants to talk about it, but every day we work, we do so many things when it comes to money and it's really time to talk about it. I don't believe that anyone should feel stress in their body and stress in their nervous system when it comes to their finances. Yes, the reality is that's not the easiest thing to do. It's easier said than done. But if you can create coping skills for your life when it comes to the dysregulation when things happen with your finances or how to talk about it with your partner or your children or whoever, whatever it is that you're experiencing, that is why I'm here. And so I am committed to help people that really want help with this, that want to come out of the nightmare that they're living in their own mind when it comes to money, when it comes to their worthiness and how they talk to themselves. And I always want you to remember that you are the greatest value and you are the greatest asset. Take care.